We hire experts for almost everything important in our lives, but fitness seems to be the one area where people think they should just figure it out alone. Today, we're unpacking why fitness gets treated differently. I'm joined by someone who coaches people professionally, and we're talking less about workouts and more about the guidance and assumptions that come along with it.
Just a friendly reminder, I am not a therapist, psychologist, or expert in human behavior. This is a judgment-free, assumption-checking zone. Take what resonates and leave the rest.
On today's episode of She's Probably Talking to Other Guys, I am joined by Marshall Zindler, and I'm going to toss it right over to him so he can give you a quick introduction of himself.
What's up, everybody? I'm the other guy, apparently, for today. I have been a longtime friend of Annie's, actually. We've known each other for many years and got to reconnect through working out and fitness, and my favorite way to stay connected with people now. So I've been a longtime gym owner. 9 years we're going on, 2 different locations. I've been in the gym space 15 years, training about that 15-ish years. So yeah, a lot of fun helping people get fit and have fun doing it, hopefully.
Do you feel like there's assumptions people have, like, before they work with you, like what they think you're actually going to focus on with them, and then they actually work with you and you're kind of shocked a bit at kind of how they thought the process was going to go?
Maybe. I've been told that I tend to be a little aggressive. So, but I think that's probably one of the most common misconceptions that I will see, especially with I tend to try and work with higher performing people. I've had the blessing of working with you for a long time, and I think when you get to people that have achieved a certain level, they understand like, hey, this takes daily dedication. So I think, one of the big myths with sometimes weight loss or, you know, the we'll have the guys come in, they want to look like they do on the magazine cover. And I'm like, hey, dude, this guy's been training 10 years, eats a very specific diet, like works out probably every single day, right? Specific training, hard, intense training, right? Like very well, programmed and well orchestrated training so that way you can get a specific result to look like that. Same thing for a lot of the ladies. And so I think a lot of people don't fully understand the dedication and commitment it's going to take. Um, so then, yeah, you slap it on them, right? It's okay if you want to be under 10% body fat and you want to have, a 300-pound bench press, or you want to squat 400 pounds. And a lot of the athletes we work with, it's like, you're going to have to work your ass off. So for someone who wants to lose their first 10 pounds, right, which is another big population for us, just get moving. Um, I think it tends to be something that it becomes more around making it fun for them, which I think we do a very good job at our locations. And it tends to actually be something people step in and like, wow, I wish I did this sooner. It is nice to have some accountability and people to work out with. It's almost that fear and anxiety of like, oh, I don't know anybody. It's scary to step into a box. And then you do it and you're like, man, I wish I did it sooner. So um, I do think it's kind of two spectrums for me because we work with such a broad audience, and I've gotten to work with, your grandmother, right? We have a Legends program in the gym. So we have people that are 65 plus coming down and squatting and, throwing around some kettlebells. And it's a really cool thing to see. But at the same time, then we have athletes that want to compete, at some of the highest levels athletically. And, I worked with some college football players this summer. So they come in and they want to sling weights and train hard. And so, I think for us, we do a good job of listening to our clients. What is our goal? What's the expectation? And then delivering that, right? The key is what happens when you hit your goal, right? We have a lot of clients first days that come and they want to lose 10 pounds and maybe come 2, 3 days a week. But the body to me is meant to move daily. So if we can help them, take that goal and now, oh, I want to lose another 10 pounds and I want to come in 4 days a week. That's it. So it's the magic. It's the fun aspect to me to see people grow. And, I think that's the element that we kind of get people to meet where they're at and then push them to go where they didn't think was possible. So I think sometimes those assumptions of like, ooh, like this is it, is just the starting point, and then it just evolves over a career of working with an athlete.
More about the big question of why we respect expertise and seek out expertise in other areas of life, but people don't necessarily do it when they think about fitness or the gym. So I would say, I mean, from my background in ballroom dancing, I've always been used to working with coaches. I feel like one thing that I've always loved about coaching no matter what aspect it's in, is that it helps me with decision making. So it's not necessarily me guessing what I should work on. It gives me a clear plan and a clear structure of what I should be doing. And it also, coaching I felt helped me to also see the end game of what I should be focused on. So that way it's more of a plan that I don't have to sit down and think about, well, am I doing this right? Or do I need to keep adjusting it? Because I have someone else who's a professional who's doing it for me. So if you want to learn how to golf, you tend to look for a golf pro. Dance, you look for a trained instructor. Physical therapy, a licensed professional. So why do you think that fitness became the one area where people think that they should coach themselves?
Probably because they can. I'm a big believer that they do. I think that's something because like for me with golf, right? Like in a lot of those areas, I've tried, but it's like, hey, once you exceed those limits of your capacity, it's okay. Now it's time to find a coach. So some people maybe struggle with knowing those limits or seeing it, but I think I was lucky to have good coaches early on in my life. So you saw the value in coaching and somebody who's done the thing that you want to do, knowing and doing allows you to speed up that process. So, but I actually am a big believer that I think people have such a large self-coaching responsibility. They might not even realize that. We see that on the other side of the coin when they come into the gym and they think I'm going to show up at their house and slap the cookie out of their hand is what I've said, and empty out their cabinets and do things like that. Maybe I should. I can add that to my coaching service, but um, there's a lot of self-discipline and self-coaching that does happen. So to me, it starts that process. We look at it as like a fitness journey for a lot of our clients. And it's, to me, the sooner people start self-coaching, the faster they come to us because eventually they do hit, a point where like, man, my shoulder's been bothering me on push-ups. Like I should go maybe talk to somebody about how my push-ups look or my form, if I'm doing these right, or if I'm doing too many, or maybe like, hey, I'm struggling to lose weight, and I can't seem to be consistent with my diet. Maybe I should talk to someone about, right, how I can build a habit or routine um, around eating and, stick with it. So, yeah, I think self-coaching in fitness is probably one of the best aspects. It's probably not done enough, if anything, but um,
What's a common assumption you see people make about fitness coaching before they ever work with a professional?
before they work with a coach, this was one of those questions I actually think it's a good question. The challenge to me is maybe that it's not going to be as difficult as they think. It's hard because I worked with clients that when you kind of use a word like difficult, it's tough because it's subjective in that sense that we have clients that come to us and we try and make it less difficult for them. Um, but a lot of that again is by making the workouts harder. So it's like an oxymoron kind of thing, and it's almost paradoxical. But I think doing that with a coach and having someone over your shoulder saying like, hey, Annie, you could do another rep. You could push a little bit harder. You can dig a little bit deeper for a large population that works really well. And so there's that element. But um, I think it's actually not knowing maybe, right? It's not knowing the value of experience, right? It's not knowing some of those things. So I would say largely there's just an element of you don't know what you don't know. And I feel that still to this day in a lot of aspects, in fitness. So there's definitely always things to learn, try, or test out. And so always be learning.
Lifelong learner.
Not sure if I answered the question on that one, but
That's good. You're good. Do you notice that discipline and structure from coaching helps people to be more successful in maybe a faster rate or maybe just more successful overall?
yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think this is where for us and for me as a coach, it is clear on like, hey, what does my athlete want? Like, what is the goal of training? Right? Because a lot of times they'll come in, they won't have that. And so that's step one of coaching, right? Help them create a goal, help them create a vision and an endpoint. So, and then it's reverse engineer that. So, like with you, when we started working together, it was one of those really fun situations because I knew I had a very good athlete in a lot of ways, but I knew there was a lot of complementary things that we could build into your training that would assist you in your career. So, seeing your transformation and like how your body's even changed in terms of the muscle masses that you've added, right? The lean or toneness that you kind of became over the years of training. But that was only going to happen with some weight training, right? And lifting some weights. So dancing, as you know, is very challenging in a lot of ways, but by using your body weight, right, there's a certain response that your body's going to get. with using external load or putting excess stress on the body, right, you're going to get a different response. So for us, it's knowing what is the goal and when is it needed, right? So it was fun to play with that and kind of talk to you about, hey, I have these competitions coming up, in this season. And so it was very detailed and structured, which is great. Same thing when I work with my football athletes. It's like season starts at this point. We're peaking for this season is the way we would talk about it. And preparing for that. So we'll have clients that come in like, hey, I have this wedding. I got to lose 50 pounds by this wedding. It's just one of those things where those tend to be very beneficial for creating that structure mentally, I think, and giving people that vision and outline, and it helps there. They don't have to be there because I'm a big fan of setting up your life that way of, hey, like, we have seasons here in New England, which makes it fun. It can give you some things to plan for. For me, I'm always like, winter bulk, baby. We're going like full hibernation mode at times. And it's a good time to put on some weight and put on some strength. And then spring comes and it's like the natural evolution. It's ingrained in us to, okay, time to clean some things up, cut some things out of your diet, right? Prepare, to get outside and move. And it's just one of those things where it creates a plan in my head that makes it fun to train for, and it makes it so it's not so routine and consistent. You can change some things up. So we do that in the gym with a lot of different things that are internal in-house. So we have some things we shoot for to create that exact idea, give some milestones, some events that challenge athletes in a broad range of ways, but it gives you something fun to train for.
Do you feel like you've noticed a difference in when people have started joining the gym more frequently? Because I ask, I notice on TV commercials, some of the franchise gyms, they this year totally threw out the concept of New Year, New Me. They weren't even using that anymore. They were kind of more promoting just the longevity of it. So do you feel that there has been a shift that people aren't necessarily focused on joining at the beginning of the year and then fading out? Do you think that people have been kind of changing their ways at all and kind of just joining throughout the year whenever they feel it?
Yeah. I mean, on a large scale. So for everyone kind of listening, I run a CrossFit affiliate. So we're a different model, right? We have one of our locations, we're like 200 plus members. So it's a little bit of a larger than typical facility. So most CrossFit facilities are typically around like 150 members, which is where we're most of our other location. But that is one thing where for us it's just a different model, right? We aren't like your Planet Fitness. Planet Fitness, who had all the hats and all the gear, they are definitely promoting on the January 1 because they know there's a large portion of people that are gonna start and then they will kind of probably not stick with it as likely. So access-based facilities like that, we call them low barrier to entry and access. So you're probably not gonna have a coach. You're just gonna come in and you'll follow the machines or you'll hop on a treadmill, right? There's no major accountability. There's no structure. They're not running cycles or, they're not really planning anything for their members. It's just come in and use our space. They will always see an uptick in membership around now. There's always kind of like a mass flooding. Every year it's just actually increasing. And you've kind of seen that since more of these facilities have popped up. So same thing, similar to like the LA Fitnesses, I'm trying to think of some of the other names of the Snap, Crunch, right? They tend to see always a big one. So anything that's access where you're going to pay probably under, $100 and not receive coaching will. We do not as much. We actually tend to see this tends to be a little bit slower, like our Christmas, holidays, things like that. Everyone kind of tightens up the budget. So we're pretty consistent, we're pretty steady. The other thing with our facilities, I guess, we're harder to find. So, sometimes these places aren't in like strip malls or right on the main road in the town. Like a lot of times there'll be back areas, industrial parks, things like that. So where we typically are like word of mouth spreading. So we're more consistent throughout the year, I would say. Things like that. So our busiest months are actually around summertime.
It's good that you're hidden because nobody needs to watch me run. That's good.
You're graceful, I gotta say. I think you're one of the best. I think 9 out of 10 people, without even knowing what you do, could be like, I think she's a dancer. I think she does some sort of dance.
When it comes to the internet, we can find so much information just readily available. You started mentioning before about how beginners can find information on there, but then they can kind of reach a plateau. and then they would typically either kind of continue on with whatever they found or make the decision to step it up a level. What do you feel like gives people, well, I don't want to use the word motivation yet because I know how you feel about motivation, and I have that for a separate portion a little bit later. But what do you feel like gives people that push to finally reach out and call somebody who knows more about working out than the internet?
I usually say inspiration or desperation, right? So one of the two spectrums, like they've either getting really good results and they want better results. They're tired of burpees and push-ups and, home workouts. They're there, and they want to get into a gym, or they're not doing it, right? They went and spent money on a Peloton and it's just not fun, right? They're not enjoying it. They bought a bunch of equipment, you know. We saw a lot of that during COVID. It was like people went crazy and bought a million things of equipment, and then they became coat racks in the basement. So those tend to be the two biggest conversations that we'll see. Or like you said, they're hitting a plateau. They seem to be, for whatever reason, not getting out of their workouts what they were getting to start. So and then boom, right, they call us to help them out.
So, seeing I brought it up there for a second, the concept of motivation. I know that you have strong feelings about motivation, and you have sent me videos in the past about, why motivation, I don't remember what the word was BS maybe? I don't remember exactly, but it was a YouTube video that you sent me a while ago. So, just without me necessarily asking any questions, what are your initial thoughts on motivation and where you stand on it?
Yeah, I like motivation. I think it's just motivation is fleeting. It's like, hey, like I have done more workouts in my life unmotivated than motivated. So I think the term that I prefer is discipline, right? Which is been instilled in me and from really good coaching, and having coaches that pushed you to do the stuff that you didn't want to do. And that's really what I think discipline, the difference is like motivation is you're doing it when you want to do it. That's where motivation comes from. So, but there's the other side of this that matters where it's doing it when you don't want to do it. And that to me is discipline. So those are kind of the fundamental differences, but it's good, right? Motivation gets a lot of people in the door, but discipline keeps you coming back. So that's where, to me, it's getting people to understand that. And we have a lot of conversations like that. Like, I'm looking for this, I want to do that. They're very centered around what their wants and needs are. And maybe too, that feeling of I like it, right? So the hard part with life is that it's just not all sunshine and rainbows. And, a lot of the results that people want to get come from doing it when you don't like it. So, and the thing with fitness, the reason I got into this is because you can't not do it, right? Like we have clients that are young, right? Very young in the sense that it's like mid-40s, things like that. And I say, hey, like you have another 40 years here. Like what happens if you train, now for the next 5, 10 years, lose whatever weight, get in the best shape of your life, but then you stop at 50, like your health is going to decline. Like, from 50 to 60, you could set yourself up for, some of the biggest things that we tend to see, like heart disease, stroke, diabetes, right? The kind of standard American living because of that, right? The vast majority of adults between 50 and 60 right now don't exercise, they don't eat well. So, to me, it's one of those obvious, logical, and reasonable things, but it's probably partly because people are doing things based on motivation and not discipline.
Do you feel that there's an assumption that people are looking for motivation or feel that they need motivation before they can even attempt to step foot in the gym?
Yeah, definitely. Right. I hear that every day. We do what we consider a consultation for clients to come in, and a big part of it is it's a conversation, right? It's a conversation to get them to start, and the best probably way to start for them. So you hear a lot of that, but that's where that conversation becomes beneficial for us. It can be that motivating spark for them. But I've seen it the other way, right? I've seen both. I know if anyone ever follows David Goggins, his story is pretty funny. Like he was this guy way overweight, right? Hated his life, hated everything about it. Watched the Rocky film, and for whatever reason, in like his mid early 30s, Rocky just hit him, and it put him on this life changing transformation to losing over 100 pounds and becoming a Navy SEAL. And truly transforming his life. So I've been doing this long enough to see that we've seen that too. Right? We've had motivation for clients that gets them here, and other people they come in maybe with a lot more routine and discipline, and they're looking for just better results. So it's hard because again, I think if you're motivated to get in the gym, great. Right? If you're desperate to get in the gym, great. If you're disciplined to get in the gym, great. So I'm agnostic when it comes to kind of starting and getting going. Anything that gets the ball rolling is beneficial.
Something that I spoke about in an episode was that I feel like there's an action which then creates the motivation, and then from there it's the discipline that kind of keeps you going. I would say slow and steady because at least the career I chose, you definitely don't get results right away.
I think in most careers, that's the reality of it. I don't care what it is, but it's typically who can do the thing the longest, right, for the result that tends to win. I've been in the gym space a long time. I've seen a lot of gym owners come and go. I've seen a lot of athletes come and go. So, and I think there's that element of who can stick around, especially for me, there's definitely that, hey, I want to train to be a professional dancer and be one of the peak. And there is definitely a window in that, and it's probably something that's tends to be smaller, right? Same thing we see professional football players and baseball players. It's not by chance that there's not any 60 or 70-year olds, not playing professional football. It's just the genetic, lottery of, okay, cool. Hey, this is the time window you have in life. And there's been yet anyone to disprove it. So maybe potentially, but as of right now, you're gonna mostly see 20 to 30 year old athletes in there, and it just tends to be a peak side for speed and power and strength and this cocktail of physical abilities that to me you're gonna be blessed with in your youth. So have some fun with it, enjoy it. Get out, go skiing, go hiking, use it. Because the thing that's nice is you can still at 60 and 70 hopefully throw your football around with your grandkid if you do those things. And you'll be able to play touch football in the yard and have fun. And that's a big part of what we love about what we do is that we get to help people do that stuff, right? So um, you might not be in the NFL, but at least you'll be able to still throw the football around and get out and use your fitness.
You could inspire the Legends Football League.
That's it. We'll have it rocking.
So just from, overhearing things in, fitness environments and just conversations about effort, sometimes, and I felt this way too in the past, I feel like, oh, I hit this easily the other day. I should be able to do this today. Like I'm going to keep pushing it until I do it. And then you just realize that your body's just not having it that day. There's that conversation of effort where I feel like people can easily kind of put themselves down because they think that if they should be hitting a certain amount today that, oh, it must be the effort that they're putting in or not, they're not putting enough effort into whatever's happening. And then it kind of becomes a bit of self-shaming. Do you feel like there's just needs to be a bit more understanding that it's normal that maybe your performance today isn't going to match your performance tomorrow, or maybe just in general, people accidentally overdo it sometimes because they think that their body should be able to constantly hit new numbers and hit new PRs?
I think it's a bit of both, right? You can't deny the physiology, right? Like go try and do any physical task, like let's just say like a heavy deadlift and don't sleep well, right? The next week and try and do it again, right? And do the same thing and don't eat well or don't hydrate well. So there's definitely a physiological aspect to anything performance that you have to do, but there is a psychological aspect too. So it is not really one or the other. It's always both. It kind of goes back to like the motivation discipline side. It's like, hey, you got to enjoy the thing. You got to be motivated to step in the gym some of the time, but then you got to go in the gym when you're not motivated too. So, um, in terms of the mindset side and physiological side, exactly. Like, I think there's two sides to that coin and they both matter. So it depends on the athlete, right? I've worked with clients that are very heavy on the psychological side, right? Typically in a negative way, right? Those people tend to be in their fields and like you said, they'll almost feel guilty for not performing well, things like that. And then, you kind of have that conversation around like, where's that coming from? So, I'm not a therapist, right? So when we start talking about childhood trauma, I'm like, oh, Jesus. But it's real. I told him like, hey, everyone's got a past, everyone has a boss, right? Everyone has coworkers, everyone has neighbors, everyone has family. Um, everyone has a television and the news is on, and probably there's a lot of things that people are consuming to affect their mood and put them in a situation where you're like, oh man, something's going on today. Like you're not your normal self. You love deadlifts and doesn't seem like today's the day. And then it's like, oh, my boss and I got into it. So, um, it's one of the other fun parts about training with us is that we're people. We get to be people together, and so building that community and being able to say like, my boss is here's what happened helps, right? De-escalate that emotion and kind of help people walk through it and talk through it so that way now they can get focused. And you'll see that in sessions where people say that and then boom, now they end up having a great workout to finish it, where they came in, they were dragging, they weren't feeling good. So yeah, I've done it a long enough time to kind of see, again, it's rarely one or the other. It tends to always be a mix of the two. So I'm a big proponent, obviously, of can you do the things when you don't feel good? Can you get into the gym, and lift 10 pounds less maybe the day that you're a boss and you got into it? And that's better than probably not showing up at all. And your physiologically, your body's going to adapt. And mentally, I think there's something to that too, to build that resilience. So, it tends to be that mindset that we talk about of shifting the athlete from, hey, worrying about the outcome, what's the weight on bar, versus just doing the best you can that day, and focusing more on that process and um, really driving your focus into, okay, like the steps that I'm taking. So
I feel like whenever I was in a pissy mood, I always took it out on the row.
I would start to think, okay, cool, let's get some things we can get Annie to take out all our frustrations for sure. But I thought you were very good at that. That was another thing where I find high performers do a good job of funneling their emotions into maybe a productive way or positive way we can say it. Because there were definitely sometimes like, whoa, what did you do today? How'd you deadlift this much weight? You're like, you don't want to know.
Uh, We're going to go through just a couple common assumptions that were on the internet, and I want you to kind of just give your quick little thought on them, because these are assumptions specifically related to fitness that tended not to necessarily be make or break, but they kind of had an impact on whether people decided if they were going to actually choose coaching or hire an actual trainer or even necessarily go to the gym at all. So there's a thought on the cost mindset versus the value mindset. What are your initial thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, it always kind of depends on the scenario, right? Like, I have always found for me, the coaching value has outweighed the cost, right? I've had a coach for my actual training and performance. I have a business coach I have for years, right? So mentorship has been huge for me in my life, but I've had the results, right? It was that element that I saw, the investment that I went in. Like, from a sense of a business, it's a lot easier to measure in a lot of ways, because it's like, hey, we put $1 in, we got $5 back. Like, it's fantastic.
Mhm.
So, and with training, the same thing, right? I started and could do 150 calories on the bike in 10 minutes, and going through training, it was 200 calories, which, if you know what that means, no big deal, but that's pretty good. Um, so yeah, I think those elements, to me, the proof is in the pudding. And that's always been like a saying that I love to use, because I love pudding and I love getting results. So it's a twofold one where I'm like, hey, if you've not done it, looking objectively at your results of where you're at, right? Like, I work with a company that we use for our business mentorship, and you talk to gym owners and like, yeah, I'm making like 50 grand a year. And I'm like, okay, cool. Like, is that good? Like, do you like that? Do you want to make more? And they're like, I want to make way more. I want to double that. And I'm like, okay, cool. Like, so what are you doing to do that? And then they're like, I don't know. And it's like, okay, cool. Like, what if you worked with someone who did know? So, same thing with an athlete that comes in and it's like, I want to lose 10 pounds. Like, cool. Like, have you ever lost 10 pounds before? I actually have. So, okay, so why'd you gain it back? And then the conversation involves of, well, I started for two months and then I fell off. Well, why'd you fall off? And so I maybe didn't have a structure, I didn't have a format, I didn't have a coach to hold me accountable. I achieved my goal and then I didn't set a new goal. So, um, there's those elements to me that I think it is very person based. I think more people tend to have a scarcity mindset currently. I think as a whole, most people tend to look at the costs and they want to hold on and save, and or they don't fully see the value in coaching, things like that yet. So, um, yeah, my best advice is check your ego, people. Go see what you can do. So
They
tend to
help.
see the top performers have had a mentor, had a coach, had something to help them guide there and get there. So there's definitely those outliers, people that bootstrapped and got after and did it themselves. And there's a bunch of stories there, but I think there's probably a lot of help along the way, even if it was just a different form of coaching or a different form of mentorship. I think a lot of us tend to hear these stories that you do find like they had an uncle, a family member, somebody, a brother, maybe a coach, right? Direct coach that helped them really exceed who they are and where they're going.
Yeah, and I think there's something to be said too for sometimes you also just have to find the right fit. I think it's fair to say, at least in ballroom dancing, not every coach you have is going to be the right fit for you. And if you feel like you're experiencing that, don't stop altogether. I think that you have to kind of give it a second chance to find someone else because there are some coaches where I will never stop working with them, like ever. Like they are my dance mom, my dance uncle, my dance dad, like they are officially part of the family. But there are some coaches where it just what for whatever reason it just wasn't the right fit and I wouldn't go back to them. So I also think that maybe also kind of give it a second chance too for people who maybe haven't had the best experience the first time around.
Mm.
Um, the next one is, do you feel like, especially because of social media, have you noticed that maybe people are dialing more into comparison culture or, this person's lifting this much, I can only do this much, or this person looks like that, I want to look like that. Have you personally experienced anything like that?
Yeah, I mean, competition is good in my opinion, healthy. Like I definitely am a person who I have athletes that I train with personally that I consider great teammates and has always been a big driver for me to push. So and in the space of like CrossFit, we have the CrossFit Open, so you have a nationwide, or sorry, worldwide leaderboard. Um, so I'm a big component in that if it's healthy for you, right? I know people that struggle with competition, so I think it can bring the best out and the worst out. Um, does that make competition bad? No, I think that's where again that's an individual aspect for people to be able to um, maybe do things and improve things better with their own thinking about others or competition. So this is just again being humans, and I think the elements that we come with is those emotions to be able to see somebody else do something well and be appreciative or happy for that person. So we live in a good times, great times right now as a culture. So for our community in the gyms, it's easy to kind of create that culture, and camaraderie and teamwork is going to be things that get us farther. So it's easy. I think online when you're on a keyboard or your phone, and you're seeing people from halfway across the world do some. It's easy to kind of be upset with yourself and then push that out into the world, project that out, and obviously we see so much of that. There's definitely a lot of those things going on. So uh, personally, in my bubble, I think we have a lot of good things, but there is that element of you get people that come in and it's, oh, you struggle with competition. Like you struggle with seeing somebody do well and saying good job. Right? That's okay. We don't kick people out of that, but we have a conversation, right? What is that? What's going on? And 9 out of 10 times everybody responds in a good way. Right? They feel better. These things they feel better, right? Maybe having that conversation and getting themselves to grow emotionally, not just physically, because I think they sometimes know, okay, that's what the hell is that? Like this is I don't want to feel this way. I don't want to be upset at someone else for their success and mine. Um, but again, it's like that you get rooted that you want to feel better about yourself. You want to do better. So focusing and getting them to focus on that really ends help. And then you see that growth personally helps people grow emotionally. And so I've always been a big one of those things of, hey, like taking kind of extreme ownership and looking at yourself, um, is a good way to reverse engineer that healthy mindset and being more supportive. And you see those people that extend that olive branch after they themselves have looked inward and kind of done the things that they're maybe jealous of or envious of at first. So
When it comes to, and I mean, personally, I've always been someone where, I've been open to coaching, but not everyone is. When it comes to the mindset that people have that they kind of have this fear of being seen as a beginner, what advice would you give to people who feel that way and are almost embarrassed in a sense to kind of be the one who's the newbie or someone who's just starting in a room full of people who maybe have done it for a while?
It's typically men, right? I've been doing this all the time. I see a lot of guys that come in and they have this understanding or thinking around, oh, I bench press 225 pounds, man. I'm fit. I know what I'm doing. Um, where I think women that come in there, or at least in that initial conversation we'll have, they'll be much more on the side of like they're here to learn and be comfortable. Where a lot of guys will come in like, hey, I know what to do. I just want to be pushed. I want to be around other fit guys, and so it's a slight change in like how they're perceived of uh, their expertise and knowledge, right? Or at least their basic knowledge of training. Yeah, like everyone's gonna have to do something in their life that they're a beginner. Um, and for what we do in our style of training, it's definitely a humbling thing. Right? I've been doing this a long time, and there's elements to it that I'm a beginner now. So that's the fun. It's the element that I think keeps it fresh for me of embracing that beginner stage, and I learned that early. When I go through basic gymnastics, basic weightlifting, um, basic rowing, so we can get to fun advanced things with gymnastics. We can end up walking around on your hands, and I tend to be the funnest uncle when I'm at a wedding and I'm walking around my nephews on my hands. So, but it started with, some basic overhead pressing strength and working on hollow holds and, some really fundamental core pieces that you have to build. And then it just gets more and more progressive. You have to go through that beginner stage. But um, I love the Shia LaBeouf, just do it. Just do it video. I just send that to people and gets them usually not as motivated as I was hoping, but I try.
Do you feel that there's an assumption people make about progress that tends to slow them down?
Um, yeah, I mean, seen it, right, for sure. I definitely think there's a lot of people now, right, that are seeing again other people's results, but then they look back themselves and there's some people kind of start to doubt themselves, right? But okay, they have pizza on Friday nights and they drink 3 nights a week and they go to the gym maybe once or very consistently. And so I think it's just again, they don't know the expectation on what it actually takes for their body to adapt and get a result. Again, the person on the magazine cover, these people eat well daily. So, it's one of those things where you're going to get the results that you put in. I think our bodies are much more physiological in terms of um, we're like a light switch, right? If I go hit that light switch, the light's going on or off, right? And there's a reason. I can't get an electrician to find out why. The body is much more exact than people realize when you boil it down. So, put in certain inputs, you're going to see certain outputs. Becomes something that for me, I've been doing this a very long time, very, very consistent with the results, with what we get. And so people build trust in that, but it's individual on that level of effort. So to me, um, are people actually going to do things with their diet that cause the result that they're looking for? Are they going to eat enough protein? Are they going to create a calorie deficit to lose weight? Um, and that's the more complex stuff. This is where it tends to be the element that you see people hit a wall with, where they'll lose 10 pounds, but they have a hard time losing the next 10 pounds, the next 10 pounds. And maybe they are having a hard time because they're fatigued and they're not eating enough protein. So again, it's very situational and individual, but for sure have seen that a lot uh, over the years.
One more question on assumptions. So, and again, I feel like this goes much more towards someone's mindset, but why do you think people assume that reaching out for help in, I mean, any aspect, whether it's guidance and coaching or just asking people questions for help in general, why do you think that people think that means that they're behind or that they're failing to actually just ask for help or ask for guidance?
Because a lot of times it's true, but again, that's okay, right? Like this is something to me that I'm like, hey, like you're not where you want to be. That's okay. Like you tried and you failed. Like that's okay. So I think there's just that element to me that people struggle with in the sense of like reality. Like, hey, here's where you are today. Like it's okay to be there, right? Like you haven't done the things to get you ahead yet. Like, and sometimes that's a tough pill to swallow, right? To be, um, where you are, but until you have that objective reality or that honest truth for yourself, you're going to stay there. So, that's a big part of the side for me that I always get into where, it's getting people to kind of accept those things and lean into those things to know, okay, well, here's how I get where I really want to go. So, yeah, that's largely individual. And, in the gym now, we've seen people lose some incredible, weight loss journeys. And it tends to be that conversation always where, the few people like that I can think of, a good buddy of mine and a good friend, Jim, Chris, one of our coaches, they all have these environments of family, that eat a lot of calories, eat a lot of food, they love watching football and drinking. And they have this kind of like family thing, and it's always been that like this is just our family, like it's the genes, it's the genetics. Until they really changed their way of thinking, which every single one of those persons did, and really busted out of that environment for themselves and got into a gym and started doing things really differently for themselves that they now really started influencing a change. And so those people all had some pretty awesome weight loss journeys and now are in the gym and still in the gym, all three of them, and working out hard and definitely getting some physical things built on just top of that weight loss journey. So really cool transformation to see them and be a part of that.
Before we wrap, I just want to leave this here. A lot of what we talked about today isn't really about fitness alone. It's about how guidance, structure, and informed decision making show up across different areas of life. Next week, I'm going deeper into motivation versus discipline. It's a topic that sits right at the core of effective coaching. If you've ever felt stuck waiting for motivation or unsure of why discipline gets framed the way it does, this conversation will give you a different perspective. We're going to transition into something a little lighter, and we're going to do a little rapid fire so people can get to know you. I did not send these to you in advance.
Love it. Give me the randomness.
So you're just going to say whatever comes to your mind first. And
Peanut butter. Breakfast.
okay, ready? What's something small that instantly improves your day?
Coffee.
Ooh. What's your go-to way to reset when your energy feels off?
Hot shower.
Okay. Morning person or night person?
Day 24-hour person.
What's the song you never skip when it comes on?
Anything by John Mayer.
What's your current coffee order?
Hot coffee with whole milk.
What's one thing you're always excited to talk about?
Fitness. Love training.
Beach, mountains, or city?
Beach.
What's a habit that helps you to feel grounded?
Taking off your shoes. Grounded is where you're walking around on the right.
Yeah, or just
Take
like
off your socks and shoes.
or just like relax.
I don't know if I can say that on this podcast. That's probably not good. Just kidding.
Texting or calling?
Calling. FaceTiming, actually.
FaceTiming? Okay.
Big FaceTimer.
What's something you've been enjoying more lately that is new to you?
I'm going to be going skiing soon, which I haven't done a lot of lately, which is a lot of fun. Reading. I would say that's very new to me. And I've been liking the books I got going. So those two things for sure. I'm in a new position. Took on a job, and that's also been fun to be with that team. So yeah, it's been cool.
What helps you stay present during busy weeks?
Being curious. I think for me, just being curious with who I'm talking to.
What's one thing you make time for no matter what?
Sleep.
Sweet or salty?
Both.
Dogs or cats?
Both.
Spontaneous plans or planned in advance?
I love spontaneous stuff.
Comfort show or a new series?
I'm a comfort guy. I'll watch The Office today if somebody put it available to me. If anyone's got a Peacock account I can borrow.
And last one, are you more of an early dinner or late night snack?
Both.
Okay.
Supper, and then you need dinner, and then you need your late night snack.
All right. Thank you so much for tuning in to season 2, episode 2 with myself and Marshall. And now that we are getting ready to close up today's episode, I'm just going to leave you with a final thought. This idea doesn't stop with fitness. It shows up in business, creativity, healing, confidence, and mental health too. In a lot of areas of life, people aren't stuck because they're lacking motivation. They're stuck because they're trying to figure out everything alone, when it's okay to ask for help or it's okay to ask for guidance. It just makes the process a bit more clearer. Not necessarily easier. You still have to put the work in, but just a bit more focused. Instead of guessing, second guessing, or burning energy in maybe the wrong places, people can direct their effort with a bit more intention behind it. The work still belongs to the individual, but your path might feel a little less scattered and more sustainable for the long term and for your long-term goals. Follow along on Spotify, iHeartRadio, Apple Music, or Apple Podcasts, wherever you choose to tune in. If this episode made you think differently about guidance or coaching, share it with a friend that you think this could help.